Circumcision. Wow, that's a topic that people are split right down the middle, and there are passionate and vocal people on both sides. So I figured since I'm going to be a parent soon, I should probably learn about the topic a little bit more. So I wanted to share with you kind of like the details of my circumcision education. This video is definitely going to be more little picture oriented with, the benefits, the risks, the history, money incentive, all the little nitty gritty arguments that people kind of get hung up on. Look out for my second video, which deals more with the bigger picture. I kind of go over the aspects that get me frustrated, and I look at it through the perspective of a voluntarist that follows the non-aggression principle and some of the ethical concerns, which I think are the most important arguments against it. So yeah, I had to break it up into 2 videos because it's going to be long. If you'd like to read in article form what I have to say on the topic, definitely check out my Tony Styles article linked in the description that has everything all in one place and is linked with research. So without further ado, here are the details. It's important to first say that in 2012, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the experts, so to speak, came out with a policy statement saying that the benefits of circumcision do slightly outweigh the risks, but not enough to recommend the procedure. That statement alone is enough to make mainstream moms continue on with the status quo and would prompt no further investigation of the topic. I, however, had to dig a little bit deeper. Here we go. Protection against urinary tract infections, or UTIs, is one of the listed benefits. UTIs are 10 times more common in uncircumcised males, but that only applies to the first year of life. Even with the increased risk, only about 1% or less of intact males will be affected. After that first year, girls are at a higher risk than circumcised and intact boys. But we don't cut off their clitoral hoods hoping to reduce the slight risk. We give them a really effective treatment called antibiotics. And believe it or not, it works for boys the same exact way. Protection against HIV is another listed benefit. Circumcising boys decreases the risk of contracting HIV by about 60%. However, there has been a lot of controversy surrounding the circumcision HIV studies. I suggest you look into that. The most effective solution by far to reduce the risk of contracting HIV or any other STD for both cut and intact boys is wearing a condom. Having unprotected sex with someone who is HIV positive is going to put anyone at an unnecessary risk of acquiring the disease, him or herself. Safe sex should be the default solution to prevent this serious and fatal disease. Female circumcision also lowers the risk of contracting HIV, but we're not advocating for that now, are we? Decreased risk of penile cancer is often listed as a reason to circumcise. This type of cancer is more rare than breast cancer in men, affecting only about 1 in 100,000 adults. It's one of the most rare cancers in the Western world. Decreased risk of cervical cancer in the female partners is another slightly more reasonable reason to circumcise. Phimosis is when the foreskin is unable to retract naturally and seems to be the most legitimate reason to circumcise, if any. However, do you know what can also cause phimosis? Circumcision. Paraphimosis is something to worry about, but it's so uncommon and can be prevented and or treated. Elimination of smegma and easier hygiene are noted benefits and used as common reasons to circumcise neonatally. However, smegma is only ever visible if the guy hasn't cleaned down there in days or even weeks. Smegma is clear and helps with lubrication during sex. It can easily be washed away daily in the shower by just simply pulling back the foreskin and rinsing with warm water. We teach our girls how to clean themselves properly. I'm sure guys can handle the challenge easily as well. After all, it shouldn't be too hard to convince a young male to handle his penis in the shower. It's interesting to note that women also produce smegma, but that doesn't seem to bother anyone in the same way. When I zoomed out, I noticed that most of the benefits are preventative measures to avoid something negative, such as STDs, cancer, and UTIs. Most of these benefits can be achieved to a greater capacity through good hygiene and using a condom. It seems kind of absurd to me to implement a routine procedure for possible prevention of rare ailments, some of which can easily be treated anyway. Breast cancer is much more common, and we're not surgically removing girls' breasts at birth, now are we? Anybody's appendix can rupture, but that seems like hardly a good reason to perform appendectomies at birth for everyone. The most serious potential risk is death. About 100 babies a year die from circumcision. That number is only slightly lower than the 115 babies that die each year from sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. And we all know to place the baby on his or her back to sleep. Other possible risks include severe bleeding, too much or too little cut off, follow-up surgeries, amputation of the fetus, meinitis, chordy, and erectile dysfunction, among others. Pain is a dangerous risk that is not taken seriously enough. It has been proven that newborns can indeed feel pain involved with circumcision, maybe even more so than adults. The stress of the operation can raise their cortisol hormone levels so high that they could go into a state of shock. This adverse reaction could permanently rewire their brain chemistry and change how they respond to stressful or painful situations for the rest of their lives. Even if they don't particularly remember it later on, the damage of the trauma so early in life still could have been done. Another risk is that removing the foreskin can eliminate up to 2/3 of the sensitivity of the penis. Foreskin is dismissed as a functionless part of the male's anatomy, but it turns out to have some very specific and beneficial purposes. Foreskin helps to protect the glands of the penis, which keeps it from getting keratinized over time through constant exposure to touch. Foreskin is also highly erogenous and contains 20,000 nerve endings that aid in sexual pleasure. The clitoris only contains about 8,000 nerve endings, and most women cannot even imagine enjoying sex without that specific body part. It also acts as a gliding mechanism during sex and will not pull out the moisture produced by the female. Circumcision has been practiced for thousands of years as a cultural and religious norm to display a covenant to God and or rite of passage into a family or tribe. I started to wonder how circumcision even became a trend that we cling to in modern American society. Circumcision originally gained U.S. popularity in the 1800s from Cornflake's own John Harvey Kellogg, who promoted it as a way to discourage young boys from masturbating. So why in the world do we still continue to practice circumcision as a routine procedure in the United States? It turns out that it's a highly profitable industry, earning millions of dollars each year. Each baby foreskin is worth anywhere between $359 to $431 a pop and can be used in everything from scientific research to Oprah-endorsed anti-aging skin cream. Money is a large part of the answer as to why this unnecessary, antiquated practice is even still around. The good news is that circumcision rates have been declining in the United States, according to the Center for Disease Control. In 2010, only about 58% of boys were circumcised. The world average is about 30%. I hope you guys found that informative. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. And I also invite you to check out my video playlist on circumcision from this channel. Just go ahead and click on playlists and find the one that says circumcision. There's, I think, 50 videos in there, and I add to it almost every day. Also, check out some of the links provided in the description. The article, my article from Tony Styles, check that out, and look out for the next video on the bigger picture of the circumcision debate.